Hello, welcome to the next session in our Insights and Intelligence series. My name is Andrew Gaffney. I'm Editorial Director with Demand Gen Report. Really glad you could join us again today. And we've got a couple of great sessions, including this one to get us started. You've heard over a couple of sessions during the week that we've been talking a lot about intent data. We're going to talk in this next section about engagement data a little more broadly. We're going to look at different types of activity data and how you can utilize those to work across marketing and sales to better understand your buyers and ultimately close more deals. So the session is titled 3 Ways to Use Engagement Data to Close More Business. As with all the sessions of the series, we'd like to try to make this as interactive as possible. Please feel free to share any takeaways, data points examples that you see with your social networks. We'll be monitoring that. We ask that you use the hashtag BII19. We also have the social handles for our speakers if you want to include that in any of your posts. But we'll go ahead and repost and keep an eye out for that. So please tweet and post on LinkedIn. Throughout the week, we've been rewarding our most active registrants and attendees. You have a chance by being part of this to win from our prize pack. We've got some really cool prizes. And also, you have a chance to win passes to our upcoming B2B Sales and Marketing Exchange event in Boston, August 12th through the 13th. So again, the more you tune in, the more you register and attend sessions, you'll increase your chances to win. I want to encourage everyone to type in any questions they have. You can do that right within the On24 platform. We're going to save the questions until the end of the presentation, but go ahead and type those in. We'll take as many as we can. If we don't get to all the questions, we'll ask our speaker to follow up with you directly. Also, one of our frequently asked questions is the session. Yes, it is. The session is being recorded. You'll get a link to go back and review it or share it with your peers. Also, here within the On24 dashboard, you can also monitor social media, and there'll be some related resources on this topic that you can access as well. So I'm really excited. I've had the good fortune of working with Sandra Freeman closely over the years throughout the past decade as we've been publishing Demand Gen Reports. She's been a great partner, thought leader in the industry. Sandra is the head of strategic marketing and ABM at Engagio. She heads their strategy and programs and is energized by working with revenue teams and serving as an advisor to other ABM enthusiasts. Sandra is driven to create synergies through ABM and Demand Gen, partners and programs, and data and creativity for amazing results. Sandra's personal mantra, which I can vouch that she applies, is make it happen, and her favorite things include family time, wine with friends, sailing, and traveling. So we're taking her away from that today, but Sandra, glad to have you here, and thanks for joining me today.
You bet. Glad to be here. Thanks, Andrew. I'll just go ahead and take it away then. Today I wanted to cover 3 key things, and I'm real happy to be here, and thanks for taking your time to be here as well. First, what is engagement? We'll go into a few context slides around that. Then there's a section around alignment. How do you align your revenue team? We'll give you some good tips on that. And then finally, real-world examples of different plays and those results from those plays. So those are the 3 key sections. I wanted to start with a question for you. Does your sales team love you? This is an important question. Do they know that your programs are impacting their bottom line, helping them get success? Next to Engagio is a company called Snowflake, just around the corner. Daniel Day at Snowflake, he started his ABM program as a pilot with just 2 reps. And it caught fire. All the other reps wanted to know, how do I get that? And over time has really built up that ABM program now with over 6 ABM marketers and touching pretty much every deal. So that's how you get your sales team to love you, is by helping them be successful. And here's one example of winning together. What we're looking at here is engagement for one account over time. And what you'll see is the green area on the chart. Those were marketing activities that are rolled up to that account level. And the blue area is sales activities. So this is just one example of providing your reps visibility into what's happening at that account. In this example, there was a webinar early on, and then a few months later there was more engagement with a survey, and then there was a little bit of lull there, and more engagement started up again for an event, another webinar, some content downloads, and this is where an ABM stand-up happened. I have the arrow there in red, and we ran a play, a very personalized play to get the executive at this account engaged. And then you can start that executive and see that engagement towards the end, a lot more sales engagement as well, and then closing the deal. So I wanted to just show this one example of winning together, and these are some of the things we'll go through today. So first we'll start with context around what is engagement data. This is an easy way to remember some key ABM metrics. We call it ICARE: impact, coverage, awareness, reach, and engagement. So really when you're looking at your programs as a marketer, are my programs making a big impact? Are those activities improving sales outcomes? Are they moving to more meetings? Are we moving stuck opportunities, for example? Coverage is, do you have the right contacts, the right data, the right information on those target accounts? Awareness, of course, are your accounts aware of your company and its solutions? And then reach, are your programs reaching the right targets? And I do look at different programs based on what percentage of the audience is really a target versus outside of our ICP, and to evaluate whether we're going to invest in that program more. And engagement, this is what we're here today to talk about, but are the right people at the account spending time with you? Meaning that time, we track it by minutes at Engagio. Is that time being used with your company? Are they downloading? Are they visiting websites? Are they going to events? And really tracking that across the whole account and aggregating and making those activities visible to everyone. Here's another example of that engagement chart we just showed before, but this is for one account, aggregating that engagement, all those activities, and making it available to sales. So we're all looking at the same unified view. And basically, when you use Engagio, you roll over different parts of this chart and see more details on the activity. You can also look at a set of accounts and really understand, are you increasing engagement across this set of accounts? For example, if we have a new vertical we're focusing on this quarter and we did multiple programs for that vertical, is it increasing the engagement, whether it's anonymous visitors or known visitors, and looking at that for that set of accounts. So you can just look and change this out based on the vertical you might be interested in, or even what I do a lot is if I'm looking at a previous event, I want to know, is that engagement continuing over time since the event? Just an example of then drilling down into what we call a heat map and understanding engagement at the product level. So if you're selling multiple products and want to understand, is that account engaging with a lot of your content around that product, this is one way to do that. So you can look at a set of accounts and say, in this example, the account on the far left, there's zero engagement for that particular product, where on the far right, that product has a lot of engagement. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish, if you're not getting any engagement, of course you need to run programs to add that engagement on that new product and try and do that cross-sell there.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Those kind of takeaways that you just covered, are you finding that sales is interested in those? Are there any particular engagement metrics that you find get the most excited? Yes,
definitely. And it depends on the company, of course, but for us, we do need a number of different buyers to be typically to complete the sale. So having multiple folks engaging is important, so we watch for number engaged. And then also having, for us, a senior marketing executive engaged is also important. And they'll really be looking at that, and we'll work together to try and increase the engagement if there isn't, for example, executive engagement on there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, next section we wanted to talk about aligning your revenue team. And I get these kinds of questions all the time. How do I get my sales team on board? How do we make sure we're working together? And I think just from the very start, it is about having those early strategy meetings, having those communications about what is the goal of whatever ABM program you're doing, what are the metrics we're going to agree up front makes it successful, agreeing on what accounts, and I have a whole section on target account selection, so agreeing on those accounts so everybody up front knows what programs you're going to go after. And then the language that you use in terms of your ABM program is really important as well. For us, for example, we have Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and each tier has a different defined set of entitlements, and making sure everybody understands that, understands what a standard package is, understands what an SLA, service level agreement is, so making sure the language is clear up front and as simple as you can as well. And then also, what is your engagement plan? If, for example, you have a particular territory that isn't engaging, what can you do there to bring up that engagement, and making sure it's very clear for all your stakeholders. Okay, this is the section I had on target account selection and how you can use engagement as you're picking your target accounts. So this is an example model. At Engagio, we bring in fit, intent, recency, and engagement, and some technographics as well when we define our total score, and we give that to our sales team to pick their target accounts. So that fit, intent, recency, and engagement, that's the FIRE methodology. There's a whole webinar on that from Everstring and an ebook. It's very, very good. But we do look at how those accounts through predictive score align to our ICP. Then we include some intent data and add, I think that's about like 12% of our model. Then we add engagement, which is another 12%, and then we add on some company size and other information about their tech stack. So I guess what I'm trying to share is that engagement can be a key part of your selection process as part of your model, and every model is probably going to be different, but this is just one example of our model using that FIRE methodology and bringing in intent. Okay, another way to align sales and marketing is definitely to be very clear how you're going to use your resources, and this is one example where for different tiers of accounts, we will apply the resources that make sense for that tier. In this example, workshops will only be applied against a Tier 1 account, and that's just because you can't do in-person workshops for everyone. So as long as there's an expectation up front, everybody knows about it, you talk about it, and people know who's eligible for all these different elements. Another example might be a welcome kit, that we'll do welcome kits for executives at certain tiers, but we can't do it for everyone. And making sure that's clear, having it documented, having it shared, and communicating about that is really important. And I also wanted to show this report. This is an example of a report that goes to the AE or the ADR every day, and they can see what are their most engaged accounts, or the accounts with no sales activity, newly engaged people, newly engaged execs, marketing qualified accounts. So there's a set of reports and metrics that the reps are most interested in, and they'll get that every day. So we have this unified view, and that they're really seeing the high engaged accounts daily. And then this is a top tip from me that we've implemented in the last 2 years. It's been really great. We call them ABM stand-ups, and this is every other week. We started weekly, but we found it was a little hard to keep up with that. We found you needed that extra week to get more work done between the meetings. It's ABM stand-up brings together the account exec, the ADR, which same terminology as the SDR, and then the ABM marketer. And we meet for 15 minutes. We try and keep it short and sweet. We talk about top account engagement. We identify 2 accounts that need extra support, and then we track that in a Slack channel, actually, just so we can keep track of it every other week. And we also agree who's going to take what action and by when, and it's a really great way to keep those accounts moving forward. Another example of using engagement, I call it a territory health check. And this is when one of your reps says, hey, my territory is the worst. I don't have any engagement in my territory. And this actually happened to me, and I said, I'm going to go look. I need to know that. I need to take that very seriously. What you're looking at here is 4 different reps. And what's in blue is the sales engagement for over time in the last quarter for that rep, and then in green, it's the marketing engagement. So the rep who was telling me that they didn't have any engagement was rep B, and that actually isn't true. It's actually working. Now, there's high marketing there, but there is a low sales touch there, so we need to look at that and see where they need help. As I did this program, although I was trying to help Rep B, what I found is Rep C is the one that really needed more help. That territory had a low marketing engagement, so I needed to put more programs in place for Rep C from that example. So I just wanted to share, this is one way you can use engagement to be talking about data, real data, instead of just feelings that, oh, I don't have any engagement. Well, let's look at it. Let's look at it together and see how the engagement is going in your territory.
Yeah, I love this slide, Sandra. I love the concept. The thing I wanted to ask you to follow up on some of those slides you just covered, we talked about lead scoring a lot back in the day, early days of marketing automation. This idea of using engagement data and tracking this, it helps with prioritization, as you covered, but it also gets more sort of, common intelligence shared across marketing and sales. Is that what you're finding?
Definitely, definitely. In some ways, you can think of it as a score, right? It's the engagement score. What we do is track minutes, a minute for an email open, a minute for a page visit versus going to a full workshop for an hour. That's going to be 60 minutes. So it's really an indication of level of interest that they have. And aggregating at the account level lets you see where there's some spikes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, next we're going to dive into some real examples of orchestrating engagement throughout the funnel. So I thought I'd start with just showing the funnel. And so we're all talking about the same thing here. When I say the funnel, I'm talking about moving from even no engagement. So if, let's say we have a set of target accounts we're going after, it's a certain vertical, maybe it's oil and gas, I'm going to make that up. And then as those accounts move through these stages, as they become more aware, they're doing activities with you, they're looking at your website, they're attending events. And MQA, what that means to us is marketing qualified account. As enough people in that account are engaging and enough of the right people, you could consider them an MQA, and that would facilitate, that you'd want sales to follow up at that point. And then the opportunity and moving into a win here at customer. And then beyond that, who's an advocate for you, who's renewing, and then also cross-sell and upsell. So just thinking about as we're talking about engagement, it's not just at the very beginning from no engagement. It's all across this. It's even touching from the customer success side and the upsells. I have a slide in here. This is more for follow-up later, so you have this in the slide deck. And this is from ITSMA on some key tactics that work at different stages of your program. So if you have a very one-on-one strategic program, what are some of the typical tactics people think are working best? If it's more of a scale program or a programmatic program, oftentimes the one-on-one meetings and the emails seem to dominate in each of these areas. But I wanted you to have that in so you could look at that later. Okay. This is my money slide. This is the slide that really shares how I think about our ABM program from a high engaged account point of view and then a low engaged account point of view. So what you'll see is if I have a high engaged account, we'll often use personalized outreach where we're triggering using outreach to our SDRs who will follow up, or to our AEs, or an executive connect play that we might run. And then I have a couple more 3D, more middle of the funnel plays to show you in the next few slides. One including an executive connection play, and then a meeting incentive play, and a middle of the funnel play. On the low engaged account side, if we're doing an ADR, AVM stand-up, we might go through and say, oh, these are accounts that have low engagement. Let's let marketing warm them up more. So we want to possibly do a contact review on those accounts, adding some key personas that are missing, some key data. We use Zoom Info and a few other great technologies for that. We also might want to push to a particular marketing nurture, and there's a way I'll show you that you can do selections on your audience and then do an auto push over to Marketo, for example. Display ads if you're trying to warm up certain audiences, content syndication, account focus, we do a lot of this. This is great, being able to really target certain accounts with your content syndication programs. We use a number of folks. Madison Logic does a great job there. And then it could be a broad-based email outreach that we're doing, or maybe a Wake the Deal play where it's a 3D mailer that we'll do when we have these low engaged accounts. So I really come back to this a lot as when we talk about what's the next action that we'll take, and here are some of the good examples. Here's an example of an executive connection play, and these are for accounts typically that have some engagement already in the account. So again, looking at that trend chart, really understanding how much engagement you have. And in this case, we were missing engagement from the VP of marketing. And we agreed as a team, we're going to go ahead and do some research and try to send a very personalized play to that VP. We found that in this case, he liked the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was right before Dreamforce, and we sent this barbecue set with the Philadelphia Eagles logo and said, it's that time of year again. Are you ready for football and Dreamforce? Let's connect. And so this is example. We include real valuable content about ABM in here as well, but we were able to follow up and schedule a meeting, and this worked really well. And we're seeing good results with their very hyper-personalized plays for Exec Connects. This example, and I think I have the percentage here, is a meeting incentive play, and we run these to add a sense of urgency for a meeting date. In this example, it was when the AirPods first came out, and we did a offer. It says, what do ABM and AirPods have in common? This was amazing because we got a 70% open rate on that email. I think it was because the AirPods were just coming out, but everybody wanted them. And we used this to say, hey, if you book this meeting within this time, we'll give you a set of AirPods. And the key here, I think, is this eligibility element where you don't offer it to just everybody. It's not a huge blast that goes to your whole database. It's for your targeted accounts. You agreed that this level of account will receive this fulfillment, and we like to see some engagement, that they're showing interest in ABM, whether it potentially is surging on an intent topic, or maybe they've downloaded something in the past, and based on their title. And so the ADRs have that understanding of what eligibility for this offer is. The best example of how this creates urgency is we had one of our ADRs was speaking with a prospect and she said, oh, you know, I can't have this meeting for 4 months. And our ADR said, okay, I understand, but we do have this program in place. If you take the meeting in the next week, you will get a pair of AirPods. And the person took the meeting the next morning at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock in the morning, took the meeting. So I want to share this because it does work. We don't do it all the time, but when you're trying to add some incentive and it has eligibility, it does work to shorten that sales cycle. And this is an example of what we call a continue the conversation play. It's more mid-funnel where we'll take time and do a Vidyard personalized video. And we think these work really well because the response rates on these are much higher. I think it's 4 times than normal, just a standard text email. So we like to include these personalized videos in our outreach as well. And I just want to say, yay, Vidyard, good job. Okay, I have one other example on the low engagement side that I just wanted to explain, which is, again, if you have a set of accounts, and you'll see I have audience here on the left, so whether it's people or accounts that you've determined they meet a certain criteria. Maybe it's they went to Serious Decisions and they were a certain title and they had a certain level of engagement or no engagement. You can find that audience and then push them to a destination to warm them up, to give them more chance for more engagement. For example, pushing them into LinkedIn and serving up some new ads, pushing them over into outreach sequences or Marketo nurtures, or maybe it's an account list that then Drift handles separate in a special way when the chatbot is handling those kind of accounts. So what I wanted to share here is really about driving the experience, that based on understanding their engagement, where they are in that funnel, if they're early stage, pushing them into LinkedIn and giving one set of ads versus maybe it's to a customer, and that set of folks or that audience can be pushed into another destination to receive different set of ads based on some criteria around that set, and making that really automatic and easy is important. So this is another area when we talk about low versus engagement versus high engagement where marketing can make a big difference. We want to warm up those accounts so that sales can then run with the high engagement activities. Okay, so I wanted to wrap up with some key takeaways. We covered engagement, it's probably ad nauseum. Thanks for listening. It's making sure you have the right people at your account spending time with your company and tracking that and providing great unified visibility to that engagement so you can take action. And then for aligning your revenue team, I think of really just focusing again on making sure you have shared goals, everybody understands the metrics, you do your target account selection and agree on that and what type of resources you're going to deliver to that. shared language, keeping it simple, and then having that orchestration plan that we talked about where you have your playbook and you know what you're going to do for your high engaged and for your low engaged, and everybody understands their role and what their timing is for that. And lastly, just driving the experience. So you're providing not just one same experience, but really understanding where people are in the journey and giving them the content, giving them the messages, building that relationship with those folks is really important. Okay, Andrew, that's what I got today. I think I'm supposed to go to one more slide. Thank you. You can contact me anytime at Sandra@Engagio, and we could take some questions too.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandra. And Sandra, we wanted to mention too that you guys will be at our B2B Sales and Marketing Exchange. I know you have a bunch of your customers, a couple that are speaking. Anything related to what you covered today that you'll be talking about in Boston?
Yes, thank you, Andrew. I meant to share that with everybody. I will be in Boston. It's August 12th and 13th. We have a lunch and learn there. It's focused on a lot of these details. Plus, we'll be at our booth as well. So I hope you'll join us there. I know I was just at the B2B MX back in Scottsdale, and that was a great show. Really good examples, great speakers, people really focusing on how they're doing their different programs and the results they're getting. So you guys do a good job, Andrew. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the presentation. I thought it had some really great examples and prescriptive ideas, so I think there's a lot of good takeaways in there. We got some good questions coming in. I just want to remind the audience, if you didn't already, go ahead and submit a question. Sandra, I'm going to jump right in. We had a question from Matt. He said that they're still in the early stages of their ABM journey, and he said, do you have any tips for improving how we're doing a target account selection in that process?
Target account selection. I do get this question a lot. I've done it 3 times at Engagio, so I do have a lot of tips for you. I think the number one thing is really making sure you have the right people in the room and understand the model and the process, and that you get their feedback along the way. And what I mean by the model and the process, for us, we've defined certain things like having some intent data, surging on key topics, having engagement, understanding what that is, having our fit score. We use Everstring, and then we built that model. So once we built the model, we needed everybody to understand it, agree on it, know what we meant by the fit score, understand what percentage of that model was intent data, et cetera. And once you get that agreement, it's just really important. Everything goes much faster. People, they trust it. Once you share all the details and get their feedback, and maybe they say, hey, we need accounts that have this kind of criteria, or we should consider this industry heavier than this industry. All those kinds of details, working that out and making sure you have time to get that feedback and get that buy-in, and give the reps enough time also is the one other thing. Because once you roll out the model and they can see the accounts, they need some time too, because they're selling at the same time, right? They're closing business, and you want them to select their new accounts. It's a tall order to do both. So just making sure you build in some time for them as well, so that they're not totally rushed, or it's not end of quarter when that's due, for example. Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have any
question from?
And feel free to jump in too, Andrew, if you have any ideas too. Of course.
Okay. Yeah, I think you covered that well, so I'm not going to head on to that. Next question is from Taylor. Does the engagement data you shared include offline activities like events or meetings?
Oh, absolutely. So anything that can be put into a Salesforce campaign, basically, you can set different minutes to that activity. And as an example, for us, we run different types of events, physical events that won't be automatically entered into the system. So you have to import that this person went on a boat cruise with us, like we did last month in New York, or came out to a workshop that we just had in Seattle, right? And so you basically need to take those names, you import them into a campaign, and you set a status, and based on that status and that channel type, they can get different meeting minutes, engagement minutes. And so as an example, if it's a heavy workshop where you're learning some key content, that's going to be assigned a lot more minutes than it's a party and, we're just having cocktails and having fun on a boat. So that one might just get 5 minutes, whereas the workshop might get 60 minutes. And so as long as it's in a campaign, you can track that offline engagement.
And then, Sandra, you didn't necessarily cover it, but the other thing that's kind of offline is direct mail. You're still seeing that become a big part of the plays?
Oh, yeah. We're having a lot of success with that. We don't actually give any minutes for someone receiving a direct mail because they have to take some action. They need to then respond or take a meeting or be visiting the website after within a certain amount of time. I think we say 60 days that we watch for that engagement for it to become a success and to get some extra minutes for the direct mail. But just because you received it, I won't be giving you any minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's working well. Working really well for us, yeah. And the e-gifts are working well, too. We've been doing a lot of the, get a coffee, or we did recently, because it's so hot, we did some ice cream and sending e-gifts for ice cream. And the cool thing about e-gifting is you only get charged if the person uses it. So we like to use that a lot, and we use it often, too, for to try and encourage people to attend the meeting. So if you send a lunch, for example, the day before, and you give a lunch link, you have a higher likelihood that that meeting's not going to get pushed out.
Okay, awesome. Question from Lisa asked what technology is required to do the kinds of plays you shared and to track them.
Okay, so just to start, I always encourage people to try different things even without technology. Like, if you're thinking of sending some fortune cookies to like a team and you're thinking of trying some different things, go ahead and try it first, and then you can build in the technology as you prove that it works. But for us, we did a lot of the mailings for us personally out of our offices using different interns and contractors. And then as we understood that it was working and we were scaling it up more, we're using Sendoso and PFL for those mailers. And so Sendoso, PFL, we also have Salesforce, Marketo, Engagio, and we use Outreach for a lot of our sequences. And then on the ad side, we use LinkedIn, Metadata.io, and then we also do a lot of content syndication with a number of different vendors.
Okay, awesome. And the engagement metrics in particular, that's happening within the Engagio platform?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. All right, question from Terry on the alignment issue. Asked about how do you get sales to buy into the plays? Do you give them input into what's going to be offered? Any suggestions you have around that?
Oh, absolutely. I find if the rep or reps are involved, they just get more excited about it. I usually join a few of their meetings, we talk about it. I think that's where we came up with, for example, a meeting incentive for Allbirds shoes. And one of the reps said, Allbirds are hot, we should do that, and the reps were really excited about it. And really were offering that up and it was working really well for them. Or even when we did Serious Decisions recently, one of my reps had the idea of find your face. Did I ever tell you about that, Andrew?
No.
It was hysterical. We made big heads of some of our targets because it was like end of year, graduation time. So we made some big heads of people's faces, put them on our booth, took pictures of them and sent it to them and said, hey, you've been spotted in the Engagio booth. Come by and you'll get a prize. And we found that was a really fun idea from a sales rep, and all the reps started getting into it, and they were really supporting that with their follow-ups and reaching out with pictures of faces. And, so I guess the lesson there is just making sure they're involved. It's like not just out of the blue. They get their ideas into, they feel like they're part of the process. All that's really important.
Great. Question from Ed. You talked about the full funnel. He's asking if they should have their customer experience team involved early. Is that something that you folks do? Or do you think about sort of that throughout?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ed. When I first started, when I first took over ABM here, it was really focused on those new meetings, new business, and the exciting part has been adding that into different tactics and plays and ideas with the customer success team in terms of renewals, in terms of cross-sell, even just, hey, we're losing engagement with this particular account. Can you help me? And that's been really inspiring for me. I would say if you have the bandwidth to include them in the beginning, do it for sure. It's just, I find it's more an issue of, what are your goals? Are you charged with helping them? Or are you like kind of hands full with your new business goals? But if you can, and that could be more of a revenue team where it's sales, marketing, and CS, that's the best, because that covers your full funnel. And it's amazing. All these different tactics work across new business and with customers as well. But you also have to have, change your content, have new plays, have that all set up, be able to train that team, have your budgets lined up, so it's a lot of work, but it's great. if that's the answer there.
Okay, awesome. All right, we're going to do one more. Mary asked if you consider plays to be similar to nurtures, or what you would see that as the difference between sort of traditional lead campaigns versus plays.
Yeah, I consider them differently. When I think of nurture, and maybe this is just old school on my part, but when I think of nurture, I think of it as more the email touches, like an automated send, wait, send kind of approach. And for plays, I consider it more integrated with multiple steps, adding potentially, a social step, adding phone, adding reply overs, having this much longer, more coordinated effort, whether it's adding direct mail, adding an executive connection. But that's the way I think about it. How do you think about it, Andrew? Is that similar, or?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it also, like you said, I see more people bringing sales in, so it tends to be a lot more coordination with marketing and sales, where nurtures were, I think, more just sort of timed marketing sequences on if-then. So I think the good ones, I think, seem to be better at that.
But in some ways, it's an interesting question, because plays are a kind of basically nurturing. It's nurturing. It's trying to build that relationship and that engagement. I just think of them differently, but in a way, it is morphing and over time is becoming better nurture, I guess.
Yeah, account based. All right, this has been awesome, Sandra. I really appreciate you joining and sharing this with us.
Oh, you bet. It was great to be here today, and I look forward to seeing you in Boston pretty soon.
Absolutely, a couple of weeks from now. So, all right, thanks to Sandra. I want to quickly remind everybody that a few lucky folks from our prize pack will win passes to our B2B Sales and Marketing Exchange. If you haven't already checked out the agenda for that, we've got a number of great speakers, 3 different tracks, some great keynotes, more than 50 B2B practitioners that are going to be speaking there. So check that out. That's going to be August 12th to the 13th, so hopefully we'll see you there. Next session in the series is going to be at 2 p.m., and it's going to be fusing data's 3 dimensions: demographic, behavioral, and declared. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Keep an eye out for the full series. Anything you missed, you can catch on demand. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks again to Sandra, and we will see you on the next session.
Thank you.